Hello, my name is Father Charles Shonk, and I'm speaking to you from the Friars Chapel at St. Patrick Priory in downtown Columbus. This short talk is part of a series my fellow friars and I are doing on Catholic life during the pandemic. I hope it's helpful. When our lives are turned upside down, one of the few places we can turn for solace and stability, sometimes the only place we can turn for solace and stability, is the church. But what if, when we turn to the church, we find that her life has been turned upside down as well? What if, at such a time, the very foundation of our practice of the faith, attending Mass, is suddenly taken away? What if, in the midst of our anxiety and turmoil, we can't go to confession? In short, what if our port in the storm is itself shut? This is the painful and disorienting situation in which the vast majority of Catholics found themselves as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And now, as we give thanks to God for the renewed availability of confession and the resumption of public masses, we find ourselves in a situation that is less painful, but possibly even more strange. I'm not referring to the wearing of masks in church, although that is strange. I mean that for the first time in our lives, and for at least a few months, if not longer, the unthinkable will happen. Participating in Sunday Mass will become optional. This fact alone, that bishops everywhere have temporarily dispensed the faithful from the sacred obligation to attend Sunday Mass, indicates that we are living through an upheaval of truly historic proportions. Yet, as the shock subsides and we begin to acclimate to this new reality, we can also begin to reflect on what it all means and what opportunities God is offering us. So, for example, when Sunday Mass becomes, unthinkably, optional, perhaps this can help us better appreciate why it's normally obligatory. Perhaps it can help us better appreciate the positive role that obligation has in our practice of the faith. Interestingly, the word obligation and the word religion come from the same root word, which means to tie or bind. Obligations tie us to what is important in life, and religious obligations tie us to what is most important in life, to God and to each other. We need to be tied in this way, not because we are strong or good, but because we are weak and unstable. Because we're easily carried away by our moods and passions, we need obligations to anchor us. Because we are easily distracted by the nearest shiny object, we need obligations to focus us. Because we're easily paralyzed by fear and anxiety, we need obligations to draw us out of ourselves and get us over ourselves. Obligations, you might say, are like the stakes to which a young tree is tied. They provide stability and support and direction. But when the tree becomes tall and strong and healthy, it can take care of those things on its own, by means of its own inner vitality. Likewise, when the sap of God's love runs strong in our hearts and minds, when we become tall and strong and healthy in divine love, we no longer need to be obliged to fulfill the law of charity. We do that of our own accord, by the grace of God moving us sweetly and strongly from within. Maybe you're thinking the same thing I am. I definitely need obligations in my life. Most of us do, of course. During this pandemic, we will all have to decide, according to our different circumstances, whether it is prudent for us to attend Sunday Mass. Remember, though, that even the Church cannot dispense you from the obligation to keep holy the Lord's Day, because that obligation comes straight from God. So, keep holy the Lord's Day, even if you can't go to Mass. And if you can go to Mass and your teenager says, "We don't have to," you can reply, "No, we don't have to, but we're going anyway."